And last but by no means least, Sunrisers Hyderabad. Do I think they'll have quite a good year this year. If again, it's sort of there's a lot of ifs and buts to a lot of these teams if they get the selection right. They're one of the more interesting sides in the competition. I think last year they came third. They got to the qualifier two, coached by Trevor Bayliss. One of the obvious strengths is that bowling unit. I would probably the most well-rounded, best bowling unit in the comp. It's certainly one to challenge Mumbai Indians. That bowling side they've got.
Yeah, I look at their bowling, and I think they've got like 14 to 16 bank rovers. Rashid Khan, Bhuvneshwar Kumar, Sandeep Sharma as a smart power play operator, and Natarajan on the flip side, excellent death bowler. So they've got the four bowlers who I think can contribute positively. Probably got pretty good role clarity among those bowlers as well in terms of phase usage, which is really useful. The problem for them is fifth bowler and also how you structure up in terms of the overseas among the batting group. I think that they're the two major issues for them that they need to grapple with in advance of the tournament as the tournament develops. So last year they kind of dispensed with Jonny Bairstow and then started using Jason Holder as that fifth bowler all-rounder kind of guy. My notes for them before the auction was that they really needed hitters because their death hitting has been poor last year and it's been poor over the last few years as well. So they didn't address that. They brought in Kedia Yadav, who's about as far from being a death hitter as it gets right now. And then they got Jason Roy as a replacement for Mitch Marsh, which left me scratching my head. There's a few people who have kind of talked a bit about David Warner being a fitness doubt, but then you've got Bairstow who can just open instead. So presumably they're going to go with Sahar as the other opener. The other issue that I think that they have in terms of their long-term planning, they spent 11 crore on Manish Pandey when I really think that Kane Williamson, I should say, is a better version of Pandey and costing a lot less money. So I don't think that you need Pandey when you've got Williamson, who's excellent at doing what he does already. Their bowling attack solves a lot of problems and hides a lot of the perhaps major issues that they've had with recruitment and retention, I think, in the last year or so. A good bowling attack will always get you quite far in a T20 comp a lot of the time, especially when you've got a couple of match winners with the bat as well. And Williamson, who will, he's so good at doing what he does in terms of letting other players bat around him and still having good acceleration when required as well. It's just the overseas issue. Obviously, you know that Rashid Khan is guaranteed 100% pick in every single match. Presumably Warner will be, given that he's going to be captain. And who's the other two? Do you go with Bairstow and Williamson? Do you go with one of them and Holder? Do you go with Majib or I don't know? I mean, what do you think? I mean, that's difficult to say because if you pick Williamson and Bairstow, you don't need Pandey because you're forcing one of the Williamson or Bairstow about a 5, and it's kind of a bit of a waste. So, is it an either or? Does Bairstow drop out like he did last year towards the end of the comp? Do we get responsible Warner again? In terms of, on his day, he's a fearful batsman, and the old Warner was a batter to be feared, but the dot ball avoidance Warner doesn't hold as much fear at all. So his approach will be key as well. They don't need any more anchors in this team, that's for sure. So yeah, well, what do you think about the overseas? I said that for me is a big question for them.
What do you go with, Tommo?
Again, I still think I would 100% play Bairstow. But that's maybe an English bias and the fact that he's one of my favourite players talking. But I kind of one of them. Obviously, Warner, you pick Rashid Khan's a lock in. I'll probably say Bairstow, Warner, Rashid, and I'm not sure who my fourth would be.
That's the tricky thing.
Yeah, you've even got Mohamed Nabi, who we've not spoken about in certain circumstances. He would be one who'd probably play ahead of Holder.
Yeah, true.
But it's so tough. But I guess the upside is if you've got a strong bowling attack, which they do, it's going to get a strong bowling attack gets you much further than a strong batting lineup does, because the consistency a bowling attack gives you is way more than a batting lineup that can, have an off day and then there's your game plan gone straight away.
Definitely.
Sunrisers, where do you reckon?
From my perspective, assuming Bhuvneshwar Kumar stays fit, because he was a massive loss to them last year, reasonable, despite not plugging the holes in their squad. That bowling group will get them through a lot of matches. Fourth, maybe. So there's a couple of teams who have sort of, I think I've sort of said third or fourth. So it's going to be Mumbai, then a lot of other teams competing for that sort of second to fifth spot, and then a couple of the lower teams at the bottom.
To be fair, that's sort of the trend we saw last year, isn't it? Yeah. It was so close. There was a point, wasn't there, where Rajasthan from 8th could have qualified. In serious circumstances would have had to go their way, but there was a chance. There was only a couple of points between 3rd and 7th, 3rd and 6th. So maybe it feels like that's what's going to happen again. Just before we finish, could you pick out one player maybe you think might have a bit of a breakout year or surprise a couple of people? You mentioned, obviously, was it Delhi, I think you said, had picked up quite well. Some younger lads who were maybe ready to play that people wouldn't be perhaps too well versed on, their skills or who they are.
Yeah, so I mentioned those guys earlier already, so I'm going to go for a bit of a different name. Now, it's tricky because obviously you're picking young players out, and then sometimes you pick them out and they don't actually play. So that's the hurdle as well. Maybe the Delhi players might easily fit into that bracket as well. So I've got a name that I'm really, really looking forward to see play more, and that is Abdul Samad at Sunrisers Hyderabad. So they really need that finishing area to be of an improvement to them, and he's got that intent. He's an intent machine. He hasn't played a great deal of T20, but his boundary hitting numbers and strike rate and stuff is really good so far. And not only that, but his numbers in the intent stakes in other formats are just off the charts. So that's a real positive in terms of maybe franking that skill level that he's got, from which we can maybe have a bit more confidence in that smaller sample size of T20 based on the fact that he's got that intent in other formats as well. So he's someone I'm really excited to see. I think he'll play, and looking for hopefully some fireworks from Abdul Samad for Sunrisers.
Well, you heard it here first, everyone. Abdul Samad is the man to watch. I think that's just about everything covered. Dan, really appreciate you coming on, spending some time with us, offering your expertise. Hopefully the first of many appearances.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me. I really enjoyed it. It's been great.
Tommo, thanks for your time, mate. Good luck at the weekend. Good luck with your trim. Maybe next time we record, we'll both have better haircuts.
Well, no, maybe the time after.
Oh, well, we'll get one more out of it then. Yeah. Thank you for listening to the Googly Cricket Podcast, supported by Woodstock. As always, if you enjoyed, please tell a friend about us, leave a like and subscribe to the podcast on your preferred listening platform to make sure you never miss a new episode. And make sure to follow us on social media at Official Googly for updates and other cricketing stuff. Tommo, Dan, thanks both for your time.
Yes, thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you next week.